Hi guys. So today we're filming in the kitchen because it's the only place in our apartment that gets any sort of decent lighting this late at night because it is 7:49 now. But anyway, I was watching a video today by the girl who does the Shadow Harvest channel on YouTube, and she was talking about an experience she had with Loki and one of his wives, the one who gave birth to Hel and Jormungand, and I think one other child of his. I can't really remember off the top of my head, so you'll have to forgive me. And she was talking about this intense experience she had with them where they basically destroyed everything she had created in her astral home, and how that was really beautiful and wonderful and miraculous. And that reminded me of an experience I had with the Morgan shortly after I left my previous relationship and entered into the one I'm in now, when I started really getting more and more into my religious practice again, when I had, the ability to. I'm going to talk about my previous relationship just briefly, just enough to say why this is important, I feel. So my previous relationship with my last girlfriend was incredibly one-sided and incredibly abusive, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say. And I was lacking the spiritual part of myself that I used to find so abundant and so abundant and so fruitful, that's the word, abundant and fruitful, and it was just growing, and it was just a part of basically my soul and my being that encompassed everything I did and made me incredibly powerful and self-confident and magical and less anxious. And whenever I first moved in with my girlfriend now, she's been nothing but encouraging toward my faith. She doesn't really have one. She's agnostic. She knows there's something there, she just doesn't know what it is, and she doesn't really care to find out. She's just like, whatever, it's a thing. And I'll settle for it's a thing. But I really needed to get back in touch with my spiritual self and everything that part of me encompassed. So I started to do kind of like a little mini ritual, just because I wanted to kind of touch base with the Morgan, to kind of figure out what I needed to do from when that relationship ended to this one began, and my new regrowth from out of the stagnancy that happened for the good year and a half to 2 years that this previous relationship was going on. And let me tell you, it was an interesting one. And I originally wasn't going to share it until, like I said, I saw the video earlier, and I was like, you know what, I need to express this. I need to get this point across. Not get this point across, but share this experience with others, because I'm sure others have had similar relationships with the Morgan. Because if you work with the Morgan, and she's a significant part of your practice, she does some pretty dramatic, not necessarily in like the, you're just doing it for attention, but she does things a certain way to get the point across, because she needs you to understand. Otherwise, there is no point in her being having to do anything with your existence. Okay, so this ritual, this meditation, this whatever you want to call it, started out as a normal meditation. I went to a place that was inside my subconscious, or inside the divine realm, however you want to phrase that. But it was different than any other one I'd had, because in this one I was dressed basically as like some medieval, like Catholic nun, essentially, which kind of summed up the fact that my ex was Christian and her family were Christian. I use that term as that's the word they use to describe it, but I wouldn't myself. And like I said, I was dressed as this Catholic nun, basically, from like medieval times, with like the really fancy like habit and like the robes and like collar up to like my chin, basically, so none of my skin was showing except for like my hands and my face. And it was really odd to see myself because I remember I looked down and I was looking in like this river thing or creek or stream or whatever, and I saw myself and I'm like, whoa, whoa. The last time we had this, I was not dressed like that. I was dressed like a Dothraki. Like, that is the best way to describe it. I was like, whoa. Since when did I don a habit and, like, do all that stuff? Join a convent. I was taken aback at myself. And I don't know how those ladies moved because, like, I could not walk in that thing. It was like 6 pounds. I was like walking, like, like this, and I was like, did they even? But I'm sure they figured it out because it worked for a while and they wore it for a long time. And then as I continued walking, I came upon this like bonfire-y area with like some chair, like two chairs up in the distance on like a high elevation, like a dais type thing. And there was a bunch of like tables and like little small chairs around it type deal, and a big bonfire in the center like I was talking about. And as I was approaching it, there was a woman there, and she had a hood on, not a hood, but like a cloak, and she just kind of walked up to me, and I obviously knew who that was. I'm not an idiot. That was her. That was the Morgan. That's typically the guy she comes in is, she has a cloak, and sometimes she has a dress. Sometimes she's kind of dressed like a Dothraki, essentially, like a Dothraki, like Khaleesi type deal, and that's how she appeared to me in that one. And so I went up to her and we had a conversation and she talked about it. She was like, now what did we learn from, being in that relationship? What did we do? What were the things? And I was like, well, it was really repressive. I had really no freedom to do anything. She was like, yep, that happened. That was a thing. That happened. And it was terrible. But what did we learn? She was like, during this point, we have a lot to work through. We have a lot to, discuss and to basically re-emerge from your sense of inner being because a lot of it's been repressed and a lot of it needs to come back out to the foreground. It's not going to be easy. And we continue walking as, we're having a conversation, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we discussed that I'm not going to talk about here. And then we get to the bonfire area type deal. But when we get there, there's people. I didn't see the people before, but there were people. And it was really loud and boisterous, and, like they were having a good time. Essentially how I would describe, or how I have seen described, like fairies dancing and fairies having feasts and like books and stuff. And it was really pretty interesting and pretty awe-inspiring, to be frank. I remember we get there and we're just like, they just like start having me dance. Like I'm just dancing. I'm moving all over the place. I'm like, doing all of this type thing and blah, blah, blah. And it was, like I said, it was really hard to move in the nun get up, and it was even harder to dance. And so that went on for a little while, and I started to feel kind of, that spirit to kind of reemerge in myself, and it was great, and I enjoyed every bit of it. And then at one point, I know the Morgan pulled me aside and started leading me up to like this, I don't even know what to describe this, like there were stairs, and then it led onto like a platform, and then off the platform there was like this kind of like halfway looking like plank type deal, like with a pirate ship you walk the plank type thing, and it led over this bonfire. And she essentially led me up there, and we had a discussion. She was like, do you really want to rekindle this part of yourself? Do you really want to break off this mantle of Christianity and suppression, and do you want to get back to the wild woman and the fierceness that you were gaining prior to that relationship? And I was like, yes, I do. She was like, I do not want to force this upon you, but I know it needs to get done, so I will if I have to. And she basically said, jump into the fire. And I was like, no, what? I guess, okay, what? And I remember standing at the very edge, like, I'm like, I don't want to jump. I don't want to jump. But I need to jump, but I don't want to jump. And I could tell she was kind of sensing that, I knew I needed to, but I didn't want to. Like, right as I'm getting ready to turn, I think, to talk to her and ask her a question, all I remember is I just see her face, and I just see her lift up, like she's, like, Leonidas in 300 with This Is Sparta, and she just like Spartan kicks me straight into this bonfire thing. And it seemed like it was very far to fall down, but I know it wasn't that far. I know it wasn't that far, but I fell into this bonfire that seemed like it was like hundreds of feet down, but it was really like 2 feet. And I just remember laying there in the flames, feeling the nun's outfit and attire just kind of like melt off of me. And all the time, the Morgan was like chanting these really, really personal, really profound things toward the universe, toward everyone there, and encouraging everything to just work its way out and work its way out of me and just be burned away in the fire. And it was beautiful. And I remember after about 5-10 minutes, that dimension's time, or that world's time, that I just climbed out of the fire. And I no longer had the restrictive clothing on, and I felt this weight just lifted off my shoulders. And I was back in my normal attire that I normally have on whenever I'm, in a meditation or a realm with the Morgan, the free attire. And it was wonderful. And then two of the people there came and put this like purple cloak on me, and it was beautiful. And then we spent some time dancing and having a good time, and me and the Morgan spent a good time dancing. And she told me a bunch of stuff about the people that were there and how they related to my life and all this other stuff. And it was incredibly moving, and I really, really needed that at that point in my life, even though it was a hard thing to learn. And not every deity out there is going to ask their follower, their child, their priest, priestess, whatever, to jump into fires to physically burn crap away because it needs to be done. I hope some of you found this long-winded, story helpful and inspires you to take risks with the way you let deity approach you, because not everyone's going to let someone kick them into a fire. Like, I'm sure I could have, even in that realm where it's technically her realm and I'm just being there to, speak with and commune with her, to where, if I didn't want her to kick me into a fire, to physically make me do something that I needed to do to better my life, I could have not let it happen, but I did. So I encourage all of you to take risks with the way you approach deity and the way you allow them to approach yourself, within reason, of course. Don't let them, convince you to go kill people, because that's bad. So I will talk to you guys later. I'm currently cleaning and watching YouTube and probably getting ready to cook dinner, even though it's 8 o'clock at night right now. But anyway, I will talk to you guys later, and I hope you're having a great day, and see you soon. Bye.